Welcome back to Captain Chaos's laboratory. We are now going to start part 4 of the Octo Swing. It's assembled-ish. It's not screwed together on the bottom. That way I can take it back off if we can get the speaker system to work, which is going to be starting here in just a moment. But I want to show you. Everything's assembled. I have 12 volts going in off of my machine. I haven't found an adapter yet. I got a diffuser to put on this LED so there's not that hot spot, and you can buy different diffusers online for different things, but I have a whole bunch of these ball style diffusers. The LED goes in the bottom. You can get flat diffusers, you can get diffusers you can screw into things. So diffusers, you can make your own diffusers. You can sand the LED and make it frosty white. Or curl plastic on it. But that ball style diffuser that I just showed you, or that I have, is most commonly used. Here is a decorative branch set you put in your trees that light up, and here's those ball diffusers. These are opaque white versus clear, but you can see same thing. So it's not uncommon. But the reason we're starting with this is let's fire it up. So press the on-off button. Oh, there we go. Let's kill the light. I'll put the head on. They'll get glued on when we're done. As you can see, the green light's flashing. I can't really tip this because it's not screwed together, but also with it not being screwed, also the head will fall off, but I can take it off. The arms will smack. It's not designed to be a tipped unit. But we got the purple lights pulsating, which I know you can't see. Oh, the head fell. And the green lights are flashing, and the things are going in and out like they're supposed to. And next step is the get this where the balls are back in. The next step is going to be working on the speaker system, which we're going to start in just a moment once I move this off the bench. The scraping sound, we'll take care of that. There's a piece of hot glue rubbing on one of the pulleys. I noticed that when I was putting it together. So if they get apart anyway, I'm going to fix that when we're done. I did change the motor on the top. I don't know if you notice how much quieter this thing is. The motor on the top was the original motor, and there was grease in it, and it was grinding, and it was over-amping or overdrawing, which was resetting that this tester, that you saw in the previous video if you watched it. And it was resetting because that motor was drawing too much power. It was exceeding a half an amp. So I did change the motor. Now I did not put in an 11,400 RPM motor like it normally comes with. I put in an 8,600 RPM motor, so it's slightly slower. I did it for two reasons. One, on the machine, it worked as a better power conserver, so it doesn't draw as much juice. Two, with it spinning so fast, you'll lose some of the effect, and I actually like it spinning a little slower. If you go to a carnival, some of these big rides spin really fast, and some of these big rides spin slow. And I think this looks better with a slightly slower spin. And then, of course, this little power conservation on that inverter, which is the 12 volt to 5 volt USB charger piece. I tried both. And to me, it just looked better with the flashing lights and the rotating lights, or the pulsing lights, I guess you could call them, and the flickering lights on the top. So, as far as a functional unit, once I fix the dome here where it's slightly rubbing on the bottom where all the new lights were stuck in, technically it's done, because she wasn't too concerned with the volume or the sound. So, as far as what was asked of me, it's basically there. It just needs a little adjustment on the lid, put all the screws in the bottom, and then glue the head back on. And we're set. We now have a fully functional unit that was completely broken when I got it, where technically nothing worked, because even though that one motor spun, it was going bad, it was overpowering. That could also burn out the circuit board because there's no fuses or protections on the circuitry, whereas like on your USB charger piece, this thing I put inside, not this one of course, the one I showed in the previous video, if it exceeds 0.5 amp it turns off. If this exceeds 2.5 amps it turns off. And I know, because that's how I found out it was bad. When I plugged this into it, it was tripping this, and that's why this kept turning off. So I used a different one, which records. This one you can actually record with those buttons there what it did, and just before this would go blank, because this would reset, it showed it was pulling more than 2 amps, and that motor shouldn't pull anywhere remotely close to 2 amps. Yeah, so that was the problem. So end result is everything in here is brand new. It's got 2 new motors, it's got new belts, it has new LEDs everywhere except for a couple of the green ones on the bottom. The top dome and the pillar, all except for one in the pillar, are new. It has a new controller, new power distribution. Hell, it's a new voltage. It's a push button now, not a long dongle. I mean, it's just a carcass that's been totally customized. So this took a lot of time. It wouldn't take near as long if I wasn't filming it, to show you how you can possibly reassemble all your stuff if it burns out, because once you lose a circuit board, they're pretty much done. You can make the lights work, sometimes the motion work, this one being harder because it's reversing motion, and it makes it miserable. But that same H bridge could be used, let's say, on like the Ghost Around a Roundup to make it go up and down. It's the same principle as this going in and out. Or the airplane, zombie airplane ride, or the fishing ride. The different ones that have dual motion, meaning it goes up, down, left, right. It reverses direction. If it's not done with an eccentric or a cam, you can do it with an H bridge, as you see in here. But the whole point of this video is now to go over sound. So now we're about 7 minutes in. Let's move this out of the way, and we're going to talk about the sound, which is over here. Here's the paperwork. Here's the circuit board. And somewhere over here is the USB cable that fell when I was prepping this. There it is. So we're going to talk about all this. So I'm going to relocate this to a new location. And bring this. So if you saw the preview, comes in a blister pack, which just pops right open. And the instructions are very basic. You have a whopping 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you're having a problems part right there. This probably uses what's called flash memory. When I plug this into a computer to put the sound on here, my computer reads this as a hard drive. Not a USB drive or any other type of drive. It reads a hard drive, and only a hard drive usually reads as a hard drive, but after doing some checking, flash memory can also read as a hard drive too. So I follow the directions, and here's the end result. I'll turn this thing on, click, and then if I press this, now it will restart. It usually starts back at the beginning. Now this, when I took this audio, I went through a handful of videos on YouTube that had the audio, because this has to be MP3 only. And I couldn't find an MP3 file, and Lemax removed their video from their website showing this piece because it's been retired for 10 years. They still have a picture of it, but the video showing it spin, the lights, the motion, and the volume or sound is gone. I'm like, cool. So I went on YouTube and I looked at a half a dozen or so of the videos that have it playing with clean audio, meaning there's no background sound. You don't hear dogs or kids or background noises in the video. And Haunter Nation, they had a video on their YouTube Shorts from 4 years ago with this piece. And his was the cleanest, purest sound. And now I have to record it. So I played it, I had my phone record it, and then transferred it from my phone to the computer, which my phone luckily recorded an MP3. If not, there's a problem solver. So it tells you can play your factory files. It says prepare your MP3. If it's not an MP3, they have an onlineaudioconverter.com link, which works fine. And then the problem is, once I transferred it on full volume, you could barely hear this thing. So I went to their website here, mp3louder.com, and adjusted the volume so this will play at a tone is actually audible versus you had to put your ear against it just to hear it. It was so quiet. I had to raise it from my phone recording, transfer to computer recording to this. I had to raise it like 38 decibels. That's insane. That's a lot of volume. But what that does is it gives me the choice of that ear piercing to minimal to nothing to minimal range that most Lemax come with, because this thing is ungodly loud now. And I'm not gonna lie, the first time I did it, I raised it like 50 decibels when doing it 2 or 3 at a time wasn't working, and I think I broke a tooth with how loud this thing was. It was ungodly loud, so I dropped it. I went back in and reduced it by 15 decibels, which brings it down to about 35, and I found that was working. The MP3 Loudner website, or Louder website, there's no N, it basically tells you it recommends only going up 3 decibels. It's like 3 decibels, I couldn't hear it. Heck, I don't think anybody could hear it. It was that quiet. But it's on there. Now, I did order a couple more of these because I have a funny feeling this isn't going to work when I'm done. I have a funny feeling it's going to fail. And I'm going to point out some stuff on it and show you why. Let me turn on a bigger light so there's less shadow on the bench, and we'll go over it. There we go. So, this runs off a 200 milliamp hour, 74 watt hour, 2 amp or 22 amp battery. It's an itty bitty little guy. It's kind of like what you'd have in your GPS or something like that. Like the ones with GPSs are slightly larger. If you still use a GPS, most people use their cell phones. But besides that, if you have this plugged in for charging or transfer, this will not play. So if I plug this in and plug it into a charger and it says it's charging, this will not turn on. So this has a circuit that detects when it's charging, it's not functional because it doesn't want to split the power into the battery and then bring it back because there's only 2 wires. So the chip is basically an on-off. On being battery, off meaning charging. So because it reverses the polarity, it sends positive down. You know, it basically is one of these chips here that's doing it for you. So that's going to pose a problem. That means you have to put a USB port in this thing, and then when it goes to a red light, you have to change or charge it, and it becomes a hassle. Next, this button is a momentary. So this is looking for a momentary signal to turn it on, which may be good or bad, but what that means is not only do I have to put a volume switch somewhere where you can get to it, I need to have an off-on switch or a momentary button switch. And I'm going to try and bypass that. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but there's a chance it'll damage the circuit board. Lastly, this runs at 3.7 volts. 3.7 volts is a very odd voltage for anything we do in the Lemax or Department 56, Mr. Christmas, or animated house industry. For your cell phone and stuff like that, very common. You know, anything that uses a lithium-ion battery, 3.7 volts, very common. But I did a little more looking. I don't know if I'm going to zoom in. It might be easier if I leave it flat and just zoom in. I'll rotate it so you can actually read the board. Well, if you notice over here where the power wires are, right there, it says 3.7. If you follow those, it goes to the battery. Why is the camera walking? It's on a solid beam. It's the stupid frame adjust is trying to center all the picture. There. So we got the 3.7 positive of the ground, but if you look right there, that says 4.5 volts. What does all your Lemax houses run on? 4.5 volts. Well, most of them. Some of the older ones are 6, 9, and 12. But think about it. We're desoldering the battery and then just soldering power, 4.5 volts, to the 4.5 positive and the ground, of course. I don't know if that's going to cause it to bypass the charging chip because it's no longer 3.7 volts, or if it's just going to make life just as difficult. But we're going to try that. And then the speaker we're going to leave, the TG1, which is your button right here. I'm just going to desolder it and probably try a jumper, or just put a jumper across these two wires, or just press the button down, I guess. It'd probably be easy too. And then this is your volume switch and your off-on switch. The volume switch I'll have to remote so it can stick out the side of the unit, and the off-on switch, it's an off-on switch. I can solder that to the button I put on the back of the unit. So if I can get this to power on, and then you can control it at 4.5 volts constant with just the button, that means it's less intrusive, and I can just put a momentary button on the back of the unit and remote a volume switch of some sort, whether it's this one, which I would recommend because it's balanced to the board, or the old-fashioned wheel style, the original one, like that. But this resistance on this switch may be way too high compared to that one as an example. So that's where the testing part's going to come in. I think it's funny, everything on here is soldered in one direction, the board's reversed, as you can tell by all the text and the battery and stuff. It is what it is. This can handle a whole bunch of sound files. You can put a 2, 3, 4 minute long sound file on here in MP3 format. It is totally fine. It doesn't hold a lot. It only holds like 300 or 293 megabytes, which, it was like, oh wow, my videos are 6 gigs or 5 gigs or 80 gigs. Sound files are very small. So on here, it gives you the, we'll bring it down so it stays in focus. It gives you the standard and good quality rates. This here is between the two, what I have programmed, and that's because I recorded it and Bluetooth transferred it and then modified it. It's not a direct file, it's a recorded file, so I'm stuck with the quality of the microphone on my phone. I could not find anywhere online where I could just get a MP3 of the sound, and I don't think anybody will. Those are usually proprietary to the manufacturers, again, whether it's one of the big three or not. But even if I added this file to the 3 that were originally on here, which aren't on here anymore, I still had 90% memory left on that little chip. So you could really use this for a very long duration. You could set up a Christmas display and record the entire Christmas story, the 12 days of Christmas as an example, using an MP3 format onto this, and it'll play the entire 2-minute long talk. It has a lot of room, but it depends on the quality of your recording. If you use a higher quality, you're going to have a little less room. Lower quality, you're going to have more room, of course. But quality just depends on if you're doing music or audio, meaning voice audio or sound effects. Music, you usually want a little clearer. Music doesn't always play so well through these speakers. These cheap little speakers don't work as good as some of the higher quality speakers that have a cardboard cone, such as this one here. So this being cardboard, and you can also see how thick it is. And you can see it's the same. This is the one that came out of that Octo Swing. That's why I have the little thing stuck to it so I don't lose the brackets. Still an 8 ohm, half watt, better quality sound. Whereas this lower quality sound, because it's a thinner speaker, less travel, and it's a plastic cone. And that's where you get some of that distortion when you go to a higher volume. Now this whole thing is designed, I'm going to zoom back out so when I show you, you can actually see it. And we'll go all the way out, make it easy because I can lift it. This whole thing sits on a sticker that you peel back, and that's double back stuck. So you can stick it inside of a card, like it says on here, you know, craft projects, panties, hossie, school supplies, gifts, photos, frames. But you know those musical cards you get, you have something like this inside that aren't generally reprogrammable. This one is. So it's ultra thin, so it can fit inside a card, and to make life easier, if you get one of those cards that have the double backer where you can peel the glue open, you can stick this in there just by peeling off the back and literally sticking it on. This has a foam disc. You might be able to see right there, this double back foam. The battery is the same. You might be able to see it. And the speaker has a sticky foam all the way around. This is loose. They just stuck it to the edge of the foam. So that way if you stick this in your card, they have a button to press it on the outside. And then it has double back tape on the back. So they give you lots of options. Now we need to know, can we modify this circuit board? Or modify its function to work for what we want to use it for. And the reason I bought some more, and they'll be here in 2 weeks, because these things take about 2 weeks to get here, and I bought them a couple days ago, is if I modify this one and it fries, I need another one for other projects. Like I said, the owner of this Octo Swing doesn't care if it actually has sound. She sounds like me, where I don't have sound on any of my pieces going. Now, if you want to play the sound, you can go up to each one individually and turn the wheel. I have the wheels set to the sides where they're accessible in my display. And then I make sure all my sound pieces are at a certain level, so you don't have to get on your hands and knees to go to the ones that are just a few inches off the floor, or the ones that are, you know, a few inches from the ceiling. But, so now we're going to work on this. So I'm going to get stuff set up. So I'm going to pause it for a moment, and then we're going to remove the battery, because I definitely don't want to put 4.5 volts to that and have risk of having that thing pop and catch on fire. And we're going to peel off this hot glue so we can get to all the connections, and we're going to do some modifications. Heck, we'll even probably first take the speaker out, put the other speaker in, and see what the sound difference is, just to show you the quality of the two speakers. That also show you that if you have a piece that has a crappy soundtrack because it's crackly, and if it's a bad speaker, you don't always have to get this flat plastic one. If you have room, you can get something like this. Now, these have a shorter lifespan in most cases because the cardboard degrades faster than the plastic. But if it's an indoor display and you don't store it in a hot shed or a hot attic, this will last. And so, yeah, let's do some modifications here. Let's get this thing set up. Let me get my bench organized up a little bit and get this thing worked on. See what we can do. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, now you know. Be back shortly. Okay, we're set up. Before I start doing the power testing, let's see what it sounds like with the better speaker. So here's what it sounds like again with the cheaper speaker. So that's the cheaper speaker. Anytime you desolder, it's usually good to put fresh solder on it so it comes off easier. It helps with the penetration. There we go. All right. Okay. So it sounds close to the same. I'm getting less of that high pitch noise part, at least what I can hear. I don't know what the camera's picking up. I noticed if I do lift it off of the mat, it's not near as bad because it's reverberating through the mat, which you can hear. It moves because it's not flat anymore from use and heat. Now, let's lower the volume here. And let me, so it won't start right then, but let's see if we, if it's all, see, that would be a problem, because if we turn it on, we would have to have a separate button. Let's try something with some heft to hold the button down. And we'll see if it resets after, I think that's like 30 seconds thereabouts. Well, the answer apparently is no. Having it constantly on does not reset it. So jumping a jumper will not allow it to play continuously. So the other choice is take the same sound file and copy it. Well, that won't work either, because the only way it will replay is you have to constantly press the button. You could technically take the sound file and loop it in an audio program and make it as long as the memory chip can handle, and then press the button and have it play until it's done. Because if you, as you can see, it just resets. It doesn't turn off till it hits the end, or until you turn the volume down, or actually flip the off switch. So now for testing, that's why we're doing this. So if you're thinking about or want to buy one of these for your house as a viable option, it's going to have some issues in the sense that you're going to have to manually reset this every time you want to hear the volume. Based on the circuitry, it's not going to handle a constant flow. With that hot glue gun weighs enough that it's pressing the button down. That's why when I lifted it up, you might have heard that click, especially with that heavy battery that's on it. So now we know this would be a momentary thing that you could play the audio if somebody wants to hear it, and then you could turn the audio would turn off automatically after it's done cycling, whether it's the single 20, 30, 45 second, 60 second sound bite that's built into these, or if you loop it on a program to where it fills up the entire capacity of the chip. So yeah, that's why we're testing it, because if you don't like it, then you don't have to buy it. I am going to look at some other ones that are out there as well. This was the first one I found. Actually, it was the first one sent to me through one of the Lemax pages on Facebook, and I said I'll try it. And then there was another one that somebody sent to me, but they're international, and I asked them if they ship internationally, and they said they do, but they've never gotten back to me with the price, and the shopping cart says unable to determine price. So that doesn't give me any high hopes that it's going to ever show up or get back to me, so I haven't paid for it because they haven't given me a total. So yeah, I'll keep looking around for little MP3 recorders. Now the next thing is the battery. Now if you're going to use something like this to pull the hot glue off, don't. If you do, those two contacts short together, this thing can explode. So you want to try and use something that's non-metallic. These are metal, but the tips are ceramic. You can get these on Amazon or eBay. I think Temu even has them, and Wish and stupid places like that. Anyway, they come with ceramic or plastic tips, and they're made for electronics, so you don't short stuff out. So to desolder this, we need to remove the hot glue. Like that. And I'm going to trim it over here by the speaker just to get the glue out of the way. So now the battery is exposed, and now we can desolder it. I'm not going to put fresh solder on the actual battery terminal because I don't want to arc them because they're so close. I'm just going to heat up and put some on my tip. That way I can just break it free. Like that. And to make it safe, again, these style batteries, if you've never dealt with them before, are highly volatile and very, very dangerous. I know plenty of people that will do all sorts of things with electronics, but they don't like to mess with lithium-ion batteries. I'm going to isolate the hot so it can't touch the negative and become an explosive, because they literally will explode. You can watch, if you're bored and you want to look it up, you can watch videos online of people puncturing or shorting out lithium-ion batteries and having them explode. Also, if you peel it off, don't fold the battery. If you crack this battery internally, it's going to get fat and hot real fast. If you ever had an older cell phone where it swelled up, that's why. And sometimes it'll actually burst into flames. So be careful with them. I'm just going to set it out of the way so it's not in my way for the next step. So the next step is I need to send power to the 4.5 volt and the ground and see if this thing still works or if it catches fire. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to solder on a set of jumpers that I can connect my leads to. So I'm going to take the jumpers I soldered on this motor, the one that I use as a demonstration for the reversing circuit. I could just cut them, but I'll just desolder them real quick like that. Tin these up a little bit. And there's no solder on the 4.5 volt. So I'm going to put a little on there real quick. Touch up the solder on the ground. Try not to have them touch each other. There we go. Here's the 4.5, and here's the ground. There we go. Here's ground and hot, which is caught on my pliers. Put that away. And the other pliers. So this one's the hot, this one's the ground. Now we're going to see if it works. So if it works, this could be a, again, press it when you want it to and have it wired into your power from a standard Lemax house. So I'm going to turn on my machine, and we're going to set it down to 4.5 volts. There we go. Machine's right on the dot. Just to make sure the machine isn't too far out of whack, and so you know that I'm actually doing it correctly. There we go. There you go, 4.5 volts. So let's see if it works. Make sure it's in frame for y'all. All right, let's turn it on. Nothing. Turn it off and back on to reset it. Nada. So, doesn't look like this is going to work. So let's peel the circuit board off carefully. We'll check the tracks. Maybe there's no circuitry and it's just a generic board, meaning that it had other options that were never used. There we go. The 4.5 volt track appears to be attached. This entire track on the bottom is ground. It's a dual layer board. The top track is all the positive side. I have oh, maybe it's not. Maybe there is a separation. Increase my magnification a little bit so I can take a look. Yeah, the 4.5 volts is not attached. There is a component missing. It looks like I am missing a transistor. And the reason I say that is this is Q2. Q2 is the basic code for transistor. So put that back in a square and I'll zoom in and show you. And focus. There we go. All right. So here's your power sources right here. So 3.7 and ground. You can see this big fat track from the 3.7 hot to this capacitor, which is C8. If you look at the 4.5, it's got this really thin track, which goes under the capacitor and goes right here. And then, so a transistor, if you remember from the previous videos, but if not, here's 3 legs. 1, 2, 3. You have an emitter, a collector, and a base. So the transistor can go here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Problem is I don't know what transistor it would be. There's tons of them out there that do different things, that have different voltages, that the emitter, collector, and bases are on different sides or different pins. But at the same token, if we follow these tracks out, there's also a resistor missing here. I have no idea what the value would be. Plus, it's a surface mount resistor, which I don't have any. I mean, when it comes to stuff this small, it's too small for my eyes. This one's not here either. And I'm wondering if some of these components get removed for the 4.5 volt track. And then possibly there was something that went here. This is a big pad for probably power and ground. This would probably be power, since it goes under multiple components, and that would probably be the ground. So this board, whatever the DT924-V4 version 4 did, is it did it with multiple setups, and what this comes preset for is 3.7 volts only, and it's an option, but it's not a good one yet. So I'm probably not going to put this in that house, mainly because I would have to set this somewhere where it can be recharged, and you don't really want to desolder this. You have a good chance of damaging these pins right here because they're itty bitty. And then I need to make a slot for that, which actually, no, I don't. I can actually hook that to the power switch, like I said before. I can just jumper, but I have to make a place for this, and then of course the button. And then with this in there, if let's say I hot glue all this down and it breaks free and something shorts out these two terminals, even if I hot glue it, or the hot glue breaks off over time, or something punctures the battery, in shipping as an example, that's why they ask you if you ever go to the post office and mail something, does it contain perfumes, explosives? And then one of the questions is lithium batteries. The reason being is lithium batteries explode, especially on airplanes when the pressure changes. They attributed one of those airplanes that crashed over the ocean many years ago to a pallet of lithium batteries exploding in the plane and, of course, taking it down. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. That's just what the news said. So at this juncture, yes, this could be used for something related to your houses. You could technically, depending on your house, if it's a freestanding house, you could put the speaker on the inside and hot glue this to the back side where nobody sees it, and just remember you got to charge it every once in a while, and make the button accessible. You could put it in a display, make your own vignettes or platforms. You can put it in your platform, and then when somebody walks up to it, you can press a button or glue a character to the button. So to make the ocean sounds, if you have a pirate theme, press the Jolly Roger flag or the sea captain that's standing on the deck, and then it plays the music for a second. I mean, there's any number of things that you can do, but as a permanent replacement for your sound chip, probably not. Wrong way again. There we go. I will link to this below. It's not very expensive. It's $11, and you get everything you see here, which is the instructions, the card with the battery right there, and then a short little charger. Of course, you get the little speaker, not the big speaker. So it does have use applications. I'm just not going to end up using it for this house because it's too much of a hassle. One, to integrate it is going to be kind of a pain, since I said I have to make a place for the charging port and all that. And two, which there is a way slightly around it. And then two, you risk having a small explosive inside your piece. The way around the charging thing is, instead of cutting a hole in it for that, you can make a notch on the deck or something, or unplug it from, take out the power jack or the push button off on, I put in an example. Make it a keyhole, and then stick this through and slide it over, put your thing back in, your power port or your on-off button, and then just have this plugged in permanently, like so. And then just have this sticking out the back. And then you can plug it into a power bank to charge it, or put your house really close to a wall socket, or get a longer one and zip tie it to the back. I charged this board using a power bank, and it took, well, they tell you to charge it before you do it. It only took about 5 minutes to fully charge this, because they have to come relatively charged, because if these are undercharged, they also can burn. Yeah, the lithium-ion batteries have lots of angry pixies inside to give you the power, but those angry pixies also don't want to be inside, so they look for any reason to come out in a smoky, fiery ball of something. And undercharging, overcharging, puncturing, pressure changes. My God, these things are really sensitive compared to good old-fashioned copper top. So, but that lasts a lot longer. So, trade-offs. So I am going to put the screws in the bottom of the Octo Swing, which is right over there, and fix the rubbing sound on the inside from where I thought I got all the hot glue out, but there's still a small piece in there that's rubbing. And so the end of this will be the fully assembled, lit, and animated Octo Swing, and I'll have it on the bench, and we'll film it from the side so you can actually see the colors like you're supposed to, meaning the purple and green lights and not just from above. And that'll conclude this 4-part series on the Octo Swing, from a smoked circuit board with a bad motor to a, well, as close to fully functional as possible piece that has technically custom lighting and stuff that you can do at home to repair your existing units depending on what's damaged on them. That's why with the Random Junk Channel, I use random components to make things work as close as possible to the original if necessary, or just make them work the way you want them to. It's your piece, modify it to your liking. That's what I always tell people. I do that for my own on some pieces. Do it to yours. Just because it's broken doesn't mean you can't make it work in some fashion that benefits you or fits in your display. So that was the whole point of starting to do the repairs, was to show people that you spend a lot of money on this hobby, and just because it's broken doesn't mean you got to toss it and go spend $800 on eBay for a new one. So, but anyway, so return in just a moment. I'm going to screw the bottom on, pop the top cover off, fix the hot glue on the dome for the lights that's hitting the pulley on the top, reassemble it, glue the Octo head back on so it doesn't fall off again, since I just had a setting in there, and show you what it looks like in low light as fully functional as possible piece. So shall return in just a moment. Here we go. No sound, but it's complete. Lights off. The red lights that are on the base are going to be repaired. Got to unscrew the base and cover them with the black cap from heat shrink, like I did with the white light. I forgot about the red lights, but there it is, assembled. We got the flickering octopi there, the octopus. We got the flashing green lights, and if you pay attention, you'll see the purple lights fade in and out on the center stem. And of course, the most important part is the motion, where it's spinning and expanding and contracting. Yeah. So, if you have this piece or something similar, you can follow this multi-part process. The sound didn't work. Doesn't mean I'm still not going to try. But as I said, the person who owns this piece, they didn't particularly care if the sound worked. They said it'd be nice, but they don't play sounds. So if something comes up in the future, maybe be able to send them the part to integrate into this piece for them. But we have lights, 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 lights in motion. And just to show you, dedicated power supply, so it's no longer attached to my machine, with the on-off button. So you can turn it off, everything turns off, and turn it back on, it'll start right back up. and start all over again. So there you go. Hopefully this was informative enough to help any of you out there that are having issues with animated pieces, give you options, ideas, so on and so forth. I just got to fix the red glow that's popping through from the adapter, and then the H-bridge that's reflecting over there by the base. I forgot to put the caps on, not a big deal. Take the 6 screws off the bottom real quick, pop the caps on, good to go. And then I can ship this back to the owner. So I appreciate you watching the series if you did, and hopefully this will assist you. Each section has the links to the parts in each section that was used. So even though I didn't use the soundboard, I will add it to this, so that way you can see or try it yourself. You can see where I got it and the whole 9. But the octopus head's glued on. Whole thing wobbles, it doesn't fall off. The lights all work. Get back off so you can see the one in the leg and the body, and the one that reflects on his face, and then the other legs and the body. So, and I actually think the flicker lights look really good. They kind of give you that pulsating pattern, similar to the purple, which there's only 4 purples in this entire thing. There's the top right there, that's kind of a bluish purple, it's fading out, and then the 2 purples in the stem. So there's 4. There's another one over there. You can see it's fading in and out. And I like the green flashing lights. I actually like them better than the pulsating. Now that's my personal opinion, and may vary from person to person. But again, this piece here shows you different options on what to do to make it work for what you want. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully it'll assist you in repairing your broken piece, so you don't have to drop nearly $1,000 to replace it if you want something like this. As my last check on eBay, these things were way up there. And maybe in the future, if I practice with or play with enough of these sound recorders, we can find one that can be integrated into a house that's missing its sound. So I appreciate you watching. Comments, questions, they're all appreciated if necessary. Put them in the comment field below. I try to answer all questions as best as I can, and as fast as I can, depending on schedule. But yeah, we do our best to help you out, and hopefully something in this series, and maybe other videos that aren't in this series, will help you fix yours in the future. So again, thanks for watching. Till the next one.